Okay, let's start with a number. Every 11 seconds. That's how often a business, a school, you name it, gets hit by a ransomware attack. I mean, that's just a staggering figure, right? And it really forces us to ask one very, very direct question.
And notice I said when it happens, not if. Because let's be real, in the world we live in now, just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best, well, that isn't a strategy. It's a massive liability. So, yeah, let's dive right into this.
All right, so today we're going to break down what a modern cyber crisis really looks like, and more importantly, what the playbook is for actually surviving one. And we've got to start with a pretty tough truth about the reality we're all facing. You know, you got to forget that old Hollywood image of some lone hacker in a dark basement. That's not what this is anymore. We are now up against these incredibly sophisticated, well-funded criminal enterprises. And they do not care if you're a giant corporation or a small local nonprofit. The bottom line is, if your data is valuable to you, it's valuable to them. So the real question is, how in the world do you protect it against an enemy that's designed to get past your best defenses?
Well, you start by building a vault, a digital fortress, something that even if the bad guys get inside your network, they just can't touch it. And that brings us to some truly game-changing technology, immutable backups.
The key word here, the one to really focus on, is immutable. It just means unchangeable. Think about it like carving something in stone versus just writing it down in pencil. Once that immutable backup is made, it is locked in, period. It can't be overwritten, it can't be encrypted by ransomware, it can't even be deleted by a rogue employee until its built-in time lock expires.
So what's the big deal? Why is this so different from what we've been doing? Well, look at this. Traditional backups are almost always online, right? They're connected to the network. And the attackers, they know this. It's one of the first things they hunt for so they can encrypt your backups right along with everything else. But immutable backups are just fundamentally different. They're read-only. A lot of the times they're air-gapped or isolated, which basically makes them invisible and untouchable during an attack.
Okay, so how does this actually work? It's really a pretty elegant and simple concept. First, your data gets backed up, right? It's written to storage. Then, the system applies this special kind of lock. It's called a worm lock. That stands for write once, read many. And from that exact moment on, that data is completely locked down. You can read it all you want, you can restore from it, but you absolutely cannot change it. No way, no how.
I saw a great analogy for this in an animated explainer. It called it a digital time capsule. And that's perfect, right? It's a guaranteed clean copy of your data, totally frozen in time. So when disaster strikes, you're not sitting there wondering, are my backups okay? You know you have a clean copy ready to go. But, and this is a big but, having the time capsule is only half the battle. Knowing how to actually use it is something else entirely.
And that brings us to a really crucial point here. The tech, that's your foundation. It's essential. But true resilience, that's built on a solid strategy and a whole lot of practice. So let's shift gears and look at how the experts actually build that playbook.
I was looking through some expert interviews for this, and this one quote just really stood out to me. It said, "An immutable backup gives you a parachute. A resilience plan teaches you how, when, and where to land safely." I mean, how perfect is that? The parachute gives you a fighting chance, sure. But it's the plan, the training, the practice drills that make sure you actually land safely instead of, breaking both your legs. The tool is not the whole solution.
So what does a good plan actually look like? Well, the experts we looked at consistently point to these 4 pillars. First, you've got to have a detailed response plan, like who calls who? What's the very first system you bring back online? Second, you have to practice that recovery, run realistic drills. Third, train your people. Make them aware. And finally, you have to isolate your most critical systems so you can contain the damage when, not if, an attack happens.
And this right here is exactly why that practice part is so critical. Just look at the most common reasons recoveries completely fail. It's almost never the technology's fault. It's things like untested backups that nobody realized were broken all along, or having zero communication plan, or just simple human error when everyone's under a mountain of stress. These are all the things that a good, solid drill will bring to the surface so you can fix them before the real thing happens.
So here's the bottom line, the real takeaway. A plan that's just sitting on a shelf collecting dust, it's totally useless. Your ability to recover isn't some theoretical concept. It's a muscle, and you have to exercise it. Your real-world resilience isn't measured by the plan you wrote down, it's measured by your last successful recovery drill. But even if you nail a perfect technical recovery, the crisis is far from over.
And that's because there's this whole other side of recovery that we just don't talk about enough. And that's the immense and frankly, often brutal human cost. This isn't just about servers and data. It's about people.
We found some first-hand stories from IT leaders who have actually been through this fire, and this one quote, it just cuts right to the heart of it all. They said, "We recovered 100% of our data, but our people were broken." Just think about that. You can have a perfect, by-the-book technical recovery and still be left with a team that is completely burned out, stressed out, and frankly traumatized by the whole thing.
Yeah, usually when we talk about the cost of an attack, we're talking about operational downtime or maybe reputational damage. But look at this. Employee burnout is a massive and way too often overlooked consequence. It's like this hidden tax of a cyber crisis, and it's paid for by the very people on the front lines who are trying to save the day.
And this story from a head of infrastructure, wow, it just brings that reality to life. They said it was 96 hours of pure adrenaline and caffeine. It's not some calm, orderly process. It's a frantic, high-stakes marathon. The pressure is just insane because you're not just fixing servers. You're trying to hold the entire business together with, as they put it, digital duct tape.
And man, talk about a leadership challenge. Imagine this. After days of basically no sleep, you and your team think you finally reached the finish line, and then there's a setback. That moment, the moment you have to look your exhausted team in the eyes and tell them you have to start all over again, I mean, there's no training manual for that. The emotional toll is just, it's incredibly real.
And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway here, doesn't it? The technology protects the data, but it's leadership that protects the people.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one thought to chew on. Go take a look at your disaster recovery plan. I'm sure it's designed to bring back your servers, your files, all the important bits and bytes. But does it account for the human element? Because getting your data back, that's really just the beginning. The real question you need to ask is, can your plan recover your team?